I want to tell a funny little story about me and Will Anderson. And I will tell you, this is a kind of really minor detail and story in the overall story of my Scrabble drama, although it does relate to the drama with the Clinchies. Um, and even though it's not really important in the big picture, perhaps it's one that's stuck in my mind a lot over the last several years. And I've never really addressed it with Will or publicly or any other way. But this was in 2017, which was when the Clinchies had already gotten really angry at me after the events of the January 2017 New Orleans tournament and were talking a lot of shit behind my back. But before they really became prominent tournament directors in the Pacific Northwest, I don't even know, they may have moved there yet, but I hadn't even moved there. I was still living in Washington, D.C. at this time. And it was kind of a funny era and time of all this that I think a lot of people don't understand, because at this moment in time, Evans was very angry at me and had lost his shit and was just progressively getting more and more hardened against me and saying lots of shitty things behind my back, and I already knew that to some extent. But it actually wasn't something that was really eating me up emotionally at all at that point. It would be the case that when I was still living on the East Coast, I wasn't even like looking to get games with anyone who lived in the Pacific Northwest, and the fact that there might have been people over on the West Coast who were turning against me, who didn't want to play Scrabble with me or thought bad things about me because of connections with Evans, who at that time was still living in Portland, Oregon, really didn't affect my life in any way. But I still had some understanding of what the general sentiment and feelings were. And if anything, what I was very frustrated by at that point was that the Clinchies were gossiping and a bunch of people were believing their bullshit and no one was asking my side of the story and even getting to know anything. But I talk in my first couple blog posts about how that summer of 2017, I was in Europe, and in particular in Stockholm, Sweden, when David Eldar, who had just recently won his first World Scrabble Championship, launched into a tirade against me. And it was a very upsetting thing to me, not just because David publicly excoriated me in the way he did, in a way that was so clearly just over the line, but that so many other people supported it and nobody really spoke up to defend me. And it was clear to me that even though people weren't talking about the Clinchies or anyone's perception of those events, that very much infected people's view of me at that time. And I had a funny interaction with Will Anderson that must have been probably shortly after that time, I'm guessing in the autumn or so, after I'd been in Europe, where there was some social media post, and I said a few things that were sort of picking a fight with Will and joshing him a little bit. And I want to be clear about why that was. I have a huge amount of respect for Will Anderson, and this is going back to before he was working for the companies that make the Scrabble app or had any kind of corporate job within Scrabble or had a YouTube presence or anything like that. But he was already one of the top Scrabble players in the country, and one of the biggest challenges I ever faced. And we'd only played each other, I think, in a small number of tournament games, but I think at that moment our record might have been like 50-50. Very balanced. I felt like he was one of the few people who was one of my biggest rivals in terms of being a top American player and someone who I would have loved to get more games with. And the entire reason I sort of joshed him or teased him or said some things that Will might have been bothered by was not because of any dislike for him or really anything about the Clinchies or this situation at all. It was just because I didn't mind playing the heel character, to use wrestling terminology, and I was trying to stir up a rivalry. I was trying to sort of do something similar to what happened with me and Marlon Hill a few years earlier, which is just a little bit of trash talking online to get his hackles up a little bit and cause attention to the potential Koenig-Anderson rivalry and get excited about the idea of us playing each other and maybe just get in his head a little bit too, so that when we sat down to play, I might have some sort of psychological advantage over him. But at the time, Will didn't take this very well, and he actually made a really sharp comment at me in which he explicitly mentioned Evans Clinchie. And the thing is, at that time, no one was really saying anything publicly to me about Evan's Clinch or the situation with the Clinchies. And it was very clear to me that the way he saw this, he said this, it was probably the idea in his head that I was a jealous Scorned ex-lover, that there was some sort of love triangle between us, and that I was really upset and angry at the Clinchies, and bringing that up was sort of saying, the reason you're being so mean and nasty is because of this shit. And I believe that that is how it appeared to him, and probably how it appeared to a bunch of other people. And once he made this little mention of the Clinchies, he got like a ton of likes on that one comment. And it was clear there were a whole bunch of people who thought I had wronged the Clinchies in some way, and as soon as it's mentioned in a tiny public way, they're happy to jump on that bandwagon of all liking this post and telling people how much they hate me. But the real irony of that at that time was that I didn't give a fuck about the Clinchies at the time. I was not upset with them in the least. It was they who hated me. And if anything, I was actually very happy that all I had to do was walk into a tournament room and had an immense psychological power over them. As happened, for instance, at the Charlottesville tournament, which was a few months after the New Orleans tournament. That I could just simply be there and be myself and just do my own thing and play in Scrabble tournaments, and just me existing in this world aggravated Evan so much. It gave me enormous psychological advantage over him. And I liked being hated by him because it was a case that he was punishing himself with that hatred. And I felt, I think I've said this before in my blog, when we played, to me, he was just another opponent. It didn't matter if I won or lost to him any more than any other high-rated opponent. But against me, I was something special to him that he fucking hated. And therefore, he had more ego, he had more emotions on the line, and it was going to cause him to possibly play worse, or if he lost, get more derailed, get more on tilt. And part of what I was trying to do here was also just get the lay of the land and figure out, could I use any of this to get Will on tilt in the future? So when I saw Will completely misperceived this situation about the Clinchies and didn't really see that it was only the Clinchies who were mad at me and I wasn't caring at that point, then I was kind of happy not to dispute that narrative or even say anything about it and just let it lie. Let him sit there believing his misperceptions and thinking to myself as a competitor, how can I use his misperception of the situation to my advantage? And I do think there's a big part of that, not only with him, with David Eldar as well. I had several games with David Eldar in the years in between this 2017 kerfuffle starting and then the pandemic happening and the blogs coming out in 2020, where I feel like I scored a lot better than expected against David Eldar. I had a couple of games where Eldar clearly blew it in the end game, where I got him because of some error or something like that. He did not play his best against me. And I'll tell you, like, Eldar is flat out a better player than me. And I may never be as good a player as he is. And I'm still probably one of his stronger competitors, but I don't consider it, any sort of bad thing about my game. I think there's probably only two people in the world, Adam Logan and Nigel Richards, who can claim to be as good or better than David Eldar. But I do think that I succeeded in getting in David Eldar's head and causing him to play worse specifically against me because of the ways that he misperceived this situation. And I was thinking of this purely from a competitor point of view of however people misperceive these situations, however much they think I'm the bad guy, I don't care what they think about me. I just want to know, how can I use that to my psychological advantage in the Scrabble games? And it never possibly came to my head. It conceived of me at that time, which is before I moved to the Pacific Northwest, before this stuff blew up the way it did, that allowing these misperceptions of me to lie and continue, and even though I did get some psychological advantage over other players, it did probably cause me to win some more Scrabble games, did eventually allow these perceptions to go unchecked and grow in the world, and just rumors and other stuff keep growing, and people building this fake reality that continued unchallenged to the point where they were entrenched in this view that I was somehow the bad guy in this story, when it was totally the case that the Clinchies were the bad guys. The Clinchies were the ones who misbehaved at the 2017 tournament. Evans was the one who behaved hatefully for years afterwards, and then eventually Jennifer and Lola jumped on that bandwagon. But I felt like I didn't worry about what other people think. And because I didn't worry about it, I allowed this myth to stick around and keep growing because I was so focused just on doing what was good in terms of competitive psychology over the board. And that's where I feel like there's been a big learning lesson in this. I feel like in a lot of ways that if I spoke up more publicly earlier, I would have looked like the asshole and the aggressor. And this is one thing that I think nobody else has really understood. I've never really been all that angry at Lola in this. I wasn't even angry at her at all when that first set of accusations came out. I did get a little bit angry when she doubled down with her September 9th statements, but I got over that fairly quickly. But I do feel like in the long run, Lola actually provided me more of a positive than a negative in this whole thing. Why is that? Because she did read through my entire first draft of the blogs, see the story through unfiltered, unbiased eyes before she had any connection to the Clinchies or a lot of the rest of the Scrabble community, and just flat out said that I was wronged, that these people did such wrong to me, and that I did nothing wrong. And the fact that regardless of how she's changing her story now, she can never take that back. That was her genuine reaction, that I was the victim in this situation and that I did nothing wrong. And she knew the situation very well because she read that story in detail. She was my editor for a while and all that type of stuff. And she still had that same opinion when I first published the blogs, even though we were no longer dating. She actually sent me an email just in the day or so after those 2020 blogs came out in which she talked about that. But the funny thing is that I get what happened. She became more part of their community, and she learned that playing a particular role ended up helping her gain more status, and that's part of it. The Clinchies built a community where literally one of the pillars of identity was hating me, and if you show how much you hate me, if you show your loyalty to them, and you shit on me, it actually helps you gain social status. And I don't deny that there are ways that she just became more afraid of me or disliking of me because of what she found out about the Daryl Day stuff, and the ways that she had perhaps unwittingly helped me defend myself against Daryl Day without realizing what the actual written stuff that I had said looked like. And I think I explained that in my documents too. There was no intent on my part to deceive her. There's the fact that I didn't even have access to the screenshots of this stuff myself. And you can also talk about how unprofessionally NASPA handled this and that they got copies of the screenshots but never passed them back to me. So I didn't even have full sight into this while I was trying to defend myself to this stuff. But anyway, the thing about this is that in a lot of ways, Lola was the spark plug. She was the person who caused this to blow up in the big way that it did. And a lot of people never would have bought the Clinchies bullshit if she hadn't said that too. And she's the one who allowed this huge train of hatred to blow up against me because now people are like, oh, it's not just the Clinchies saying it, it's other women saying it too. Therefore, Dave must be a really bad person and we're going to go against him. And I get that that's what you thought and saw at that time, but I see it a little differently. The way I see it is, Jennifer and Evans really were always that bad fucking people. Chris, at his heart, Chris Light, always was that bad a fucking person. It always was part of their personality. It was always in them to be the immoral shitbags they are. And they needed that spark plug, that spark of what Lola did to actually get them to carry out the really fucking evil things they did and put it all in fucking writing. And I'm glad they did. Because I don't want to fight against an invisible ghost. I don't want to be shadow boxing. I want all their words to be fucking out there. I want the people who've spoken to Chris and the people he's told defamatory stuff to give me written depictions of exactly what it is he told them. I want everything to be in fucking writing, their arguments and mine, so that everyone can objectively see that they are complete, immoral, abusive shitbags of humanity. And they've always been that way. Now you could say I bring the worst out in people. I cause them to overreact. I get under their skin and all that. There's some truth to that. I am a provocateur at times. But I think the thing about this is I absolutely believe this. I am proud of the ways I've made so many enemies. Because the fact is that the people who become enemies of me do it by being immoral shitbags. And the way I behave wouldn't have caused you to behave that way if you weren't already bad at your fucking core. And in fact, the way I behave, if you were a good person, would have actually gotten a good result. And the reason it didn't get a good result is because you're not a good person. I am doing the right thing in how I treat you in terms of forcing you to behave more rationally or start fucking losing the battle and having the whole world see you for the immoral shitbags you are. I am exposing the fucking immoral shitbags. I am revealing your true evil fucking nature, and I am a fucking hero for it. And that's what I really want out of this whole story. I don't want to just be loved in spite of all this drama with the Scrabble community. I want to be loved because of it. I think that the ways that I've handled this situation, the ways that I've managed to write such rational, clear-headed stuff and explain myself in the blogs and in these videos and show so perfectly that I am the good guy in this situation, have always been the good guy, and have always been the bad guys, that makes me a fucking hero. That's something I'm really, really, really fucking proud of. And the thing is that some people get that too. Anand Budev, for instance, is one person who has given me the feedback that I did an incredibly great job on the blog of explaining myself very clearly, of making clear what had happened, of explaining it all, of disambiguating of showing the exact wrongdoing of people in the Scrabble organizations and just, making it all undeniable. And that's part of the problem, is that these evil fucking shitbags don't want the truth to be seen. They don't want someone like me who exposits nothing but the fucking truth and shows everything that they actually fucking did, and they make me the bad guy because what they really are is the bad guys themselves, and the bad guys, the narcissists, can't stand having the fucking truth out there that shows what bad people they are. And when you are the person who puts the truth out there that makes them look like the shitbags they are, you are not attacking them, you are holding up a mirror, letting the world see what fucking shitbags they are, and you are a fucking hero for it. I want more people to be like me. I want more people to speak truth to power. And truthfully, you know who I'm really kind of pissed at in all of this? Will, you're one of the people. You should have used your power in Scrabble media on YouTube as an influencer in the Scrabble world, as the biggest influencer in the Scrabble world, to speak the fuck up on my behalf. To say you were completely wrong to have done what you did as part of the WIGPO board. And I know you're not on the WIGPO board anymore. I don't know what your relationship is with them now. But you should have said that the entire attack against me was wrong. It was WIGPO and Coco going after me when I was not in their organization, and that there was no valid case against me, that I was the good guy in the story. And if it had been coming from you, someone who is so widely on YouTube, someone who's actually listened to by a lot of the world outside of Scrabble, it would have been very fucking effective. You had a chance to use your influence to make sure the good guy actually wins and the bad guys lose and that justice is served. And you didn't do it. You know why? Because you like the bad guys. Because you actually had a personal relationship with the Clinchies and you could not see objectively. You didn't allow yourself to see objectively what the truth was there, or you decided you cared more about realpolitik than you did about objective truth and goodness. And that's part of what I picked up from you in that conversation we had in Canada. You were basically saying to me, I don't care about right and wrong. I am happy to push this person out because I think he's the bad guy. But you were wrong to think I was the bad guy. I am the good guy, and I fucking proved it to you, and they are the bad guys. And now you have a moral responsibility to update your worldview, to accept the truth that I am morally superior to the Clinchies, and that the only good position for you is to take my side entirely and speak the fuck up about this. And if you don't do that, you are literally abdicating your moral imperative to be good and honest and stand up for the truth and to fight against evil, motherfucker. And I believe that 100%. And another person I will say the same thing to about that is Brett Smitheram. Brett Smitheram was one of my best friends. He was the 2016 World Scrabble champion. And I literally stayed at his place many times. He stayed at my place when he was visiting the USA. And I was the first person to hug him, to be right there the moment that he won the world championship. And I know that he knows I was wrong, and that he knows all these shitheads did bad stuff to me, and there was never a valid case for kicking me out of Scrabble. But he also is a person who believes that because there's emotional truth to their particular stuff, even if there's no literal truth to it, that in somehow what they did to me was maybe okay, or understandable, or sympathetic, or some shit like that. I don't know how to explain it exactly. But the point is that he was a person who was regularly interviewed by British radio. He was a person who had a great amount of influence. Usually, if the Brits wanted to talk about something on public radio, he was the first person they reached out to about it, not the people who are actually officially in charge of the Scrabble associations. He had a great amount of media influence. Maybe he still does over there. Now, I'm not saying he should have gone out of his way to make a media story about my thing. But if he had just spoken up, made social media posts, done something to use his name, his reputation, to just unequivocally say, Dave is the good guy in this story, he did nothing wrong, the Scrabble associations lied, carried on this false narrative to malign him, he could have made a big fucking difference. And again, you abdicated your moral imperative. You guys, people like Will Anderson, people like Brett Smitheram, you have to use that power and influence for good. You have to recognize your fucking power and speak up and defend me and get rid of these fucking accusations against me. And you had the fucking influence to save the institution and you didn't use it, and I fucking hate you for it. I fucking hate you for it. You are scum of the fucking earth because you are chicken shit, and you're like, if the emotional sentiment is too strong against a person, I don't want to speak up about it because I think it's political suicide, because I think it's not a good way to go in terms of, even though I'm 100% right, even though you're only speaking the truth and calling out people who actually objectively did bad things, you don't fucking care. You care about pleasing the audience. You care about not taking a sinking ship, not going into a particular issue that's only going to cause you to lose face publicly. You care more about your image, you care more about politics than you do about objective right and wrong. And I say, fuck you to all of you. The reason you're some of the best Scrabble players in the world is because you're capable of sorting out objective right and wrong, objective truth and falsehood from all of this image bullshit. And you have a moral responsibility to use your fucking influence to fight so that the good guy wins and the bad guys lose. And I am objectively the fucking good guy. They are the bad guys. And anyone who says otherwise is full of fucking shit. And I've already had it happen with Geigen Sailor, with, Ellie Dangor. Anyone else who wants to speak up, do so. And I will argue you to fucking pieces. I will tear apart your arguments. I will show you how fucking wrong you are for thinking anything other than I am the good guy in the story and they are the bad guys. You're a fucking moron if you're not on my side. And that's what it comes down to. There's a whole lot of fucking morons out there who don't like people like me who yell and get angry. You know what? I'm yelling and I'm angry because I have self-respect. Because I don't tolerate anything less than 100% the truth, 100% the good guys winning and the bad guys losing, and fuck every one of you who feels otherwise.